This is Adventure for Life. I'm Joel. Today starts a new series on the Grenadier. I'm going to be doing a roughly 15,000 mile cross-country trip from Key West, Florida to Dead Horse, Alaska. I'll tell you more in a minute. Okay, so I've been alluding to this cross-country trip that I'm going to take for some time now. For those of you who have been following the channel for a little while, you remember that a couple of years ago, I rode my BMW GS 1250 motorcycle from the southeast up to Washington State, did the Washington BDR, then did the Idaho BDR and rode it back. I think that was about 7,500 miles. And then last year, I drove my 74 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme from the northeastern corner of the United States, which is the northeastern corner of Maine, down to the southwestern corner of the United States, which is a state park that's a field, I think it was called, just south and west of San Diego. And then back here, that ended up being a 9,900 mile trip. And those were obviously very fun in and of themselves, but they were partly, I had this in mind. This trip that I'm getting ready to take with the Grenadier, as I've mentioned before, I put my order in on the Grenadier within an hour of the order books opening in September of 2021, I believe it was, and intended to do a couple of cross-country trips in it. This one, and then next year I'm planning on doing the Trans-America Trail. We'll talk more about that later, but I leave Friday from the southeast, and I'm going to drive down to Key West. I'm going to go to Dry Tortugas National Park. I'm going to go to Key Biscayne while I'm down there, obviously do the Everglades, ride an airboat, go to Big Cypress, and do a couple other things on the trip. So that will be the beginning of this trip, to drive down to Key West. And then, so that'll be obviously the southeastern corner of the United States. Then I'm heading northwest. Now I'm going to end up going along the southern part of the United States on my way out. A couple of things I'm going to do between here and Texas. My family lives in Texas, so I'm going to go do a family event in July there. But from there, I'm going to go to Carlsbad in New Mexico, go to White Sands. I'm going to go to Saguaro National Park, which flanks Tucson. I got some friends I'm going to visit while I'm out there, so I'm going to end up going through Vegas. And from Vegas, I'm going to go to Death Valley. Never been to Death Valley, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to go to Sequoia National Park. Sequoia's got Kings Canyon, which I'd never heard of until I saw it on the map. Go to Yosemite, and then head north up through Salt Lake City. I'm actually going to stop in Salt Lake City at Warner Ineos. I've already made an appointment to get my oil changed because I'm at, as I've mentioned, I'm at about the 6,500 mile point now on the Grenadier, and by the time I get to Salt Lake, I'm assuming I'm going to be at about the 12,000 mile point, and so I want to go ahead and get my oil changed while I'm there. It'll be my first visit for a service event. From there, it's head north, going to go through Jackson Hole, the Grand Teton, Yellowstone National Park, and then the real driving starts. So I'm going to spend the night, or at least my plan is to spend the night in Great Falls, Montana, and then from there, head north to Dead Horse. So it's a long drive. It's like 50 hours. So I'm going to drive basically 10 hours a day to Edmonton, Alberta, Fort Nelson, British Columbia, Whitehorse in the Yukon, Fairbanks in Alaska, and then on to Dead Horse. So that's basically a 50-hour drive. And then from there, I'm going to drive across Canada. So to get out of Alaska and to drive across Canada, you basically backtrack back to Edmonton, and then I'm going to head across from Edmonton, basically not due east because it's a little bit southeast. Plan on spending the night in Saskatoon, next night Winnipeg, Thunder Bay, Ontario, Matheson, which I'd never heard of, Ontario, Montreal, and then into Maine. You know, I just thought that, hey, I'm going to be in Deadhorse, and I can either backtrack all the way back to the southeast, or I can do something else I've never done, which is drive across Canada. Now, I have not looked to see what kinds of things in Canada I might do, but you know, I'm assuming it's beautiful country. People go up there and take train rides across Canada. I'm going to drive my Grenadier across Canada and see what that's all about. I could have taken a more southern route, gone through the United States and then over to Maine, but I'm not really interested in doing that. I want to drive across Canada. I've spent time in Canada for work in the past, both in the East Coast and on the West Coast, but it's all been fly in, fly out. So this will be my first time to really take a drive, although when I was a kid, I did live in Alaska, and we drove the Alcan Highway in 1968, I believe, coming back from Alaska. My dad was in the Air Force. And so I've been up there, lived in Alaska for 3 years, drove the Alcan as a 8-year-old. Really looking forward to that. Hope you guys will come along. By the way, I've been getting more comments of late, and I really appreciate it. It's good to get some feedback, and you know, I do respond to every single comment that I get, so I appreciate getting them, and it's good to have that communication link going, so you guys feel free to comment on anything. By the way, I did get a couple of comments over the last couple of days about the range and the gas tank size that I mentioned. So somebody wrote in and said the gas tank exact volume is 23.7 gallons, so that's great. By the way, this person said they were getting 17.1 miles a gallon, and I'm thinking I'm getting 14 or 15, so I probably drive maybe a little bit more aggressively, a little bit faster, whatnot. Well, anyway, that range is going to get tested, I think, on the Alcan, so that'll be a very interesting aspect, and obviously why I have if you can see them up there, why I have the gas cans on top, because I don't have them full now, but I certainly plan on, before I leave the United States, filling those cans up to give me a little bit of additional range. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you next week. This trip is not planned out in a great amount of detail, because I want to have fun, I want to relax, want to do, you know, whatever comes up. From the Cutlass trip that I took last year and the motorcycle trips I took a couple years before that, a couple years ago, some of the funnest things were the unexpected things. And so I tried to keep this itinerary pretty loose, and hope you'll come along and we'll have a good time together. See you next week.